The Nile is barely moving tonight. A velvet hush rides its surface, disturbed only by the occasional ripple from a lazy fish or the breeze brushing the reeds. You are not a priest, a pharaoh, or a scribe not tonight. You are simply someone with sand in your sandals and sleep in your bones. Somewhere between dusk and proper darkness, you wander through a village older than language and quieter than reason. The sky above you glows deep blue with a faint bronze line near the horizon, like the final stroke of a day's painting that the gods forgot to finish. Palm fronds shift in the wind like gossiping hands. Clay homes rest side by side like sleepy cattle, their curved edges still warm from the sun. Everything smells faintly of baked earth and roasted lentils. You walk past a woman grinding wheat on a stone slab. Her hands work slowly, rhythmically, like she's been doing this for the past 6 hours and maybe the last 6 decades. She nods at you but says nothing. This is a place where words know their limits. You step into a doorway draped with linen dyed with pomegranate rind and soot. The colors have faded into something that looks almost fashionable, though you'd never say that out loud. Inside, there's a small room filled with the muffled sound of crickets and a particular musty scent papiers, sweat, and something herbal. Someone once called it home, and so will you. There, sitting on a low wooden stool, is your host. He has exactly to teeth, infinite patience, and a lot to say about pillows. Yes, pillows. Not your modern fluffed minus up cloud minus bricks with memory foam and branding. No, these are the stiff, U-shaped headrests carved from wood, ivory, or alabaster. They're cool to the touch, harsh on the neck, and according to him the only way the soul knows how to leave the body properly. You nod solemnly, though your neck disagrees. This is Egypt, around 1500 BC, give or take a few dynasties. You've landed in a time when pillows are not a luxury, they are cosmic architecture. They're there to support your skull so your conbie can float freely while you nap. Modern science might call that nonsense, but frankly, modern science also gave us the leaf blower. Tonight we will drift through the hazy twilight of ancient Egyptian sleep. Not through tombs or treasure hunts. Through homes, courtyards, and bedrooms. Through dreams made of linen and logic carved into stone. Well, follow how a civilization as grand as the pyramids also took nap-minus-time very, very seriously. Just a soft warning, you probably won't make it through this day. Your eyes will get heavier. The pottery will blur. But that's all right. That's the plan. So if you're still awake enough, tap that like button like you're smoothing out a linen sheet. Subscribe softly, like whispering into an amphora. And if you're still listening, tell us in the comments where you are in the world and what time it is there just before you drift off. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. The Pillowmaker's house smells of acacia wood. The same tree that will one day become a headrest now sits stacked in a neat pile against the wall. Each piece is hand-cut. Not a machine in sight unless you count human fingers as divine instruments, which in Egypt many do. The craftsman, your host, is polishing a crescent-shaped support. It's designed to cradle the curve of the skull just behind the ear. You try it. It feels like resting your head on a polite brick. He smiles and assures you your dreams will be sharper. You're not sure if that's comforting or threatening. The weird part, these pillows were often placed in tombs. Egyptians believed you'd need them for the afterlife. Imagine dying and still being expected to carry your bedding. Historians still debate whether these headdresses were used daily or reserved just for elite ceremonies and funerals. Based on your aching neck, you suspect the latter. But in this small house, the headrest is sacred. It's where the soul rests, not just the skull. It's sculpted, polished, inscribed with prayers or spells. Sometimes, a protective image of the god be as small, lion-faced, oddly charming is carved at the base. a divine bouncer for your dreams. As the stars climb higher, your host places the finished pillow among a small collection by the wall. Each one is slightly different, some for children, some for priests, some, he mutters, for people who complain too much. You wonder if one of those is for you. A breeze drifts through the window, cooling the room. Outside, a cat owls. The Nile hums. Somewhere in the distance, a reed flute begins a slow, meandering tune. You don't know if it's real or imagined, but you're already sinking into something soft, even if the pillow isn't. Sleep now curls at the edges of your mind, but the night is just beginning. Morning doesn't arrive. It seeps. In Egypt, the sun does not rise. It emerges with dramatic indifference, like a celebrity showing up latent and knowing you'll still cheer. Pale light slinks across the clay floor. Your eyes open slowly, unsure whether you're awake or just dreaming a brighter shade of black. You're still in the pillow maker's house, and your neck still hurts. A little less than last night, maybe. Or maybe you're just more Egyptian now. The craftsman is already up, sipping something that looks like tea but smells suspiciously like warm weeds. He motions for you to follow. Today, you're going into town. The pillow market is open, yes. That's a thing, and you're about to meet people who take sleep so seriously. They've built entire reputations around it. The streets are already alive. Donkeys shuffle. Vendors shout. Someone is selling tiny fish that smell like boiled socks. You pass a perfume seller crushing lotus petals into blue bowls. The air smells like half a memory floral, dusty, secret. And then you arrive at the stall. A line of pillows, all stern and stylish, each on its own woven mat like miniature thrones. The shopkeeper has the mustache of a man who has lost an argument since the Third Dynasty. He eyes you carefully. New to pillows, he says. You nod. He does not approve. One of the headrests has gold inlays shaped like vultures. Another is made of polished hippo ivory delicacy for the temples, probably not recommended for bedtime snores. You reach for a simple wooden one, carved with a lotus at the base. He stops you. That's for dreamers, he says. You ask, what kind of dreams? He shrugs. Ones that visit you back. Egyptians believed dreams could be omens, messages, even visits from the gods or the dead. They kept dream books, little collections of what various dreams might mean. Dream of eating crocodile. You'll gain power. Dream of your toenails falling off. Well, that's not true. And yes, you guessed it, historians still debate whether these interpretations were widely accepted or just ancient clickbait for bored priests. But still, there's something charming about a society that wrote down their sleep hallucinations on papiers and took them seriously. Back at the stall, a woman is buying a headrest for her daughter's wedding. Another man is inspecting a headrest shaped like a scarab beetle. He mutters something about fertility and balance. You decide not to ask. The pillow maker taps you on the shoulder. He wants you to see one last thing. You walk down a narrow alley where the light barely fits, and he opens a faded wooden door. Inside is a workshop that smells of sweat, oils, and lemon balm. Two boys are painting tiny hieroglyphs onto finished headrests. One reads to rest is to remember the gods. The other just says, no evil shall approach. There's something touching about it all. In a civilization known for conquering deserts and building monuments taller than some modern cities, someone still cared enough to make sure your dreams had the right support. You run your fingers along the grain of one finished piece. The wood is smooth and cool. The curves are precise. It is undeniably uncomfortable. But it is also beautiful. And maybe that's the point. Outside, the market hums like a warm lullaby. You wander back toward the river, pillow in hand. It's too early to sleep again, but not too early to imagine it. And as the sun begins to climb low, deliberate, smug, you find yourself thinking that maybe the Egyptians were onto something. Maybe the head does need a throne. Even in dreams. You carry the pillow like it's more than an object now. Like it knows things. Not because it whispers to you, though honestly, at this hour, that wouldn't be the strangest thing, but because it seems to hold something dense and ancient in its awkward, crescent shape. The Egyptians didn't believe in random design. Every curve was intentional. Every discomfort, a cosmic nudge. You walk back through the streets of the town, now alive with the thrum of daytime activity. Linen flaps on clothal signs like weary flags. A boy runs past with a jar of dates and a grin far too confident for someone wearing one sandal. You step aside to avoid a cart piled high with onions and baskets of carrot pods, and somewhere in the dusty bustle, you realize something important. No one is rushing. Not really. Egypt, for all its grandeur, isn't in a hurry. It's a place where even time seems to slow down to avoid sweating. The pillow maker leads you to the home of a priest. Not a fire minus and minus brimstone type, mind you. This one is thin, calm, and smells faintly of frankincense and roasted barley. He greets you with the warmth of someone who has seen many dreams and judged none of them too harshly. In the corner of his room is a headdress wrapped in linen. It's older than anything else here. This belonged to my grandfather, he says. He said it was carved during the reign of Hatshepsut. You nod respectfully, though part of your brain is trying to remember if Hatshepsut was the one with the beard or the obelisks. Trick question. She had both. The priest lifts the linen gently. The pillow beneath is carved from dark ebony wood, with a single line of script curving along the top for the neck that walks between worlds. You don't know whether to bow or nap. He offers you beer thick, flat, almost chewy. You pretend it's delicious. After a few sips, your eyes wander to a shelf filled with miniature amulets. Crocodiles and KHS, Eyes of Horus. Each one meant to protect, guide, or confuse the spirits. Probably all three. He explains how priests were once called to interpret dreams, not just symbols, but the very moods people woke up with. If you wasn't easy, it might not be indigestion. It might be a message from your ancestors. Or worse, a missed offering. Forgetting to honor the dead was a social faux pas roughly equivalent to unfollowing your boss on Instagram. The priest gestures toward a clay tablet filled with carefully drawn dream signs. There's a man with a bird's head, a boat with 3 fish, and a woman standing in a circle of fireflies. You ask what it means. He sighs. That one? Probably just a bad pomegranate. Historians still debate whether these dream tablets were diagnostic tools, religious props, or something closer to therapeutic journals. Either way, they were taken seriously. Ancient Egypt had no word for just a dream. As you leave the priest's home, you carry with you a newfound appreciation for symbolic chaos, and for furniture that doubles as a spiritual antenna. Back on the path, the pillow maker walks ahead of you, hands clasped behind his back. He hums a tune older than your passport. He says you're ready now. Ready for what? He doesn't answer. He just smiles and points to a boat. It's narrow, painted with faded blue and yellow stripes, and smells like 1,000 morning fish. You step in. The boat rocks slightly, but holds. The oarsman looks like he was carved yesterday and left in the sun too long. He nods once, pushes off, and just like that, the town begins to drift behind you. The Nile stretches ahead, glassy and unknowable. Reeds sway. Birds swoop. Somewhere in the water, something large bubbles and then decides not to introduce itself. As the boat glides silently past farmers, cows, and stone statues half-minus swallowed by time, you set the pillow beside you. Its hard curve catches the light. It still looks deeply, proudly uncomfortable. And still, you feel oddly comforted. It's almost like maybe the point was to sleep easily. Maybe it was to dream intentionally. You drift past temples now. Their columns rise like petrified lotus stalks, painted once with vibrant reds and blues, now faded to soft whispers of color. Hawks circle lazily overhead, casting slow moving shadows on the riverbank. Everything smells like damp stone and sun minus warmed hay. The boat slides up to a wooden dock near a temple complex that doesn't show up on tourist maps, mostly because those don't exist yet. A sleepy guard waves you through without much interest. You're not carrying anything threatening, unless sarcasm counts. Inside the courtyard, everything feels hushed. Statues of falcon-headed guards loom over shallow reflecting pools. You walk beneath a series of carved lintels, each one repeating a phrase you can't quite translate, though you're pretty sure it ends with "And may your sandals never squeak." You're here to meet the temple Dreamkeeper. Yes, that's a real role. Dreamkeepers were part priest, part therapist, part astrologer, and part deeply exhausted librarian. Their job was to catalog, interpret, and sometimes even induce dreams, especially among pilgrims who had come to sleep at the temple, hoping for divine messages. The practice is called incubation, and it's weirder than it sounds. You're shown into a small, incense-filled room, lit by oil lamps and cooled by thick stone walls. The Dreamkeeper is ancient in the way that's less about wrinkles and more about the way his eyes seem to have been somewhere else for a while. He offers you a seat. You decline the headrest beside him politely. Your neck still remembers. He explains that temple sleepers would fast, cleanse, and then lie down on sacred stone benches. They'd sleep among chanting, oils, and faint music. Sometimes dreams came quickly. Sometimes they didn't. But when they did, they would read it as divine telegrams. One dreamkeeper recorded a man who dreamed of being bitten by a snake, only to wake and find his leg cured of a long illness. Another dreamed of drowning in honey and clear, whether that's a blessing or a very sticky warning. There are papier scrolls here, each wrapped in faded linen and bound with cords. The Dreamkeeper shows you one. It crackles as it opens. Inside, rows of careful Hurat script catalog the dream of a merchant who saw 3 black dogs, a broken jug, and a woman singing underwater. The interpretation: do not travel east for 3 days. You nod. That feels strangely reasonable. Historians still debate how much of this was sincere belief, social ritual, or just deeply formalized anxiety. But to the people here, dreams were sacred data points. Night was not the absence of reason, it was where reason went to become myth. You ask the Dreamkeeper if he ever dreams. He smiles. Only when I forget him awake. Outside, the sky has shifted again. The sun is moving toward that golden part of afternoon where everything looks like it was painted on papiers with a warm brush. You follow the edge of the temple wall, where carvings show men asleep beneath stars, their bodies arched like question marks. You touch one gently. It's worn smooth by centuries of hands, some curious like yours, some desperate for meaning. The stone is cool, unmoving, permanent, and yet the people it honors believed that even stone could dream. The pillow maker waits for you at the river's edge, his feet buried in silt. You ask him what the Dreamkeeper meant. He shrugs. Sometimes the gods speak through dreams, he says. Sometimes they just borrow your headrest. You both laugh. The kind of laugh that doesn't need to be loud to be real. Back in the boat, the sun dips lower. The Nile is turning gold. And as the wind picks up slightly, you lie back not quite on the wooden pillow, but close enough to pretend. And in that moment, half minus shadow, half minus light, you begin to understand something. Egypt didn't just teach the world how to build pyramids. It taught the world how to dream with intention, even if it left your neck a little sore. The pillow maker tells you it's time for the tombs. You are hoping for something a little less eternal. But apparently, no story about Egyptian pillows is complete without a visit to the final bedroom. Death, after all, was just another kind of sleep, and the Egyptians were meticulous about both. You drift once again along the Nile, this time further south. The landscape grows quieter, more deliberate. Cliffs rise on either side like giant sun-baked jaws. The oarsman doesn't speak. He just rows. Either he's deeply mystical or just docent like people before sunset. At the entrance to a tomb site, the air feels heavier. Not spooky, exactly. Just padded. Like sound itself has decided to whisper. You descend a sloping tunnel cut into rock, lit now and then by shafts of light sneaking through cracks overhead. Dust rises with every step. Your sandals leave temporary ghosts. Inside the burial chamber, it's cooler. Someone has carved intricate scenes on every wall, boats sailing under stars, jackals mid-Minas prowl, people offering bread to seated gods who look suspiciously unimpressed. And there, tucked neatly beside a painted sarcophagus, sits a wooden headrest. It's not ceremonial, not fancy, just simple and smooth. Used. This wasn't for show. This was for sleep. The ancient Egyptians believed that proper support for the head helped the soul journey through the dew at the underworld. Without it, you might wake up on the wrong side of the cosmos. Or not wake at all. A sobering thought, though the pillow is oddly reassuring. You run your fingers over it. There's a tiny scar where the wood has splintered and been repaired with resin. Someone cared enough to fix it. That's love, or something awfully close. There's a scene painted near by a man lying under the stars, his head lifted by one of these Euminus-shaped contraptions, while a goddess Nut, probably Ark, above him, her body dotted with stars. She stretches from her eyes into her eyes and holding back chaos so he can sleep. It's a nice gesture. You sit for a moment, surrounded by stone and silence. No tourists. No guides. Just the faint echo of time exhaling. You wonder about the person buried here. What did they dream about? Did they worry about grain prices or scorpions, or whether their afterlife bed would squeak? Did they get bored of eternity? Historians still debate whether every tomb had a headrest, or only those of certain status. Some were clearly decorative, while others bear the marks of actual use. Scholars can't agree, but this one tells its own story, quiet, practical, sincere. You exit the tomb into golden light. The kind of light that makes you want to drink something sweet and say very little. The pillow maker doesn't say a word either. He just hands you a small piece of linen with a pattern inked in faded blue, a crescent, a star, a headrest. A simple spell for rest. You press it to your chest, unsure whether it's a gift, or a seat, or a blessing. Back in the boat, you lie down. This time, you let your head rest fully on the curved wood. It's not comfortable, but it's grounding. You're not floating anymore. You're anchored. And that, you realize, might be the point. The next morning, you're in the marshlands. Not glamorous. No grand temples. Just frogs, reeds, and more mosquitoes than you'd like to admit. The pillow maker insists this is where some of the best papiers comes from, and where some of the most overlooked sleep rituals once thrived. The sun rises reluctantly, turning everything into a wet watercolor. A few women in reed skirts walk by, balancing baskets of herbs, fish, and yes, what appear to be bundles of dried lotus leaves. You follow them to a small thatched hut perched just above the waterline. Inside, the air is thick with steam. Someone's been boiling something herbal. The scent hits you in waves, lemongrass, date syrup, and what can only be described as hope. You're eager to learn about dream brews. Yes, that's right. Beverages designed not to energize, but to guide you gently into specific kinds of dreams. Egyptians called them asir et hesu, or secret drink. Recipes vary by region and ritual, but they all had one thing in common: they were meant to smooth the edges of the mind. A young woman with arms like braided rope stirs a pot slowly. She pours you a cup and hands it over without fanfare. The liquid is warm and tastes like if tea, honey, and riverbank mud had a polite meeting. You nod gratefully because this is Egypt, and you are trying to be respectful, even if your tongue disagrees. These brews were taken before temple sleep, burial rituals, or difficult decisions. Sometimes they were given to people on the brink of death, not to cure them, but to prepare them for what might come next. A bit like spiritual nightlights. You ask if there's a specific recipe. She shrugs. Depends on the dream you want, she says. And how brave you are. She hands you a small pouch filled with crushed lotus seeds and something that might be dried crocodile tears. For protection, she says with no follow-minus-up explanation. You nod. Again. Historians still debate whether these drinks had real psychoactive effects or were mostly ceremonial. Some scholars believe Blue Lotus had mild sedative properties. Others suggest it was the ritual itself slowing down, sipping with intention that made the dreams vivid. In the corner of the huts is a child curled up with a straw minus stuffed headrest. HES, dozing peacefully while a cat watches him, tail flicking with calculated boredom. The woman gestures at the child. He dreams of birds, she says. Good sign. You sip the rest of the brew slowly, and as the warmth settles into your chest, you feel something odd. Not dizziness, not sleepiness, just openness, like your mind is afield waiting for weather. You step outside and the pillow maker is waiting with a sack of reeds. Time to make one, he says. One what? He grins. A pillow that floats. You follow him to a shaded clearing where others are already weaving. Not all Egyptian pillows were made of wood or ivory. For common folks, there were reed bundles, straw minus filled cases, and even compacted linen rolls tied with braided thread. The reed pillow is lighter, slightly squish-ier. Still nothing you'd call soft. But it moves with you when you shift, like it's thinking about your comfort and then deciding it might care later. You sit and begin to weave. Over, under, bend, pull. The pattern repeats, mindless but comforting. Like braiding thoughts. Your hands take over while your mind slips sideways. You think of temples, of stars on stone, of dream books and brewing pots. You think of the boy and the cat and the painted sarcophagus. You finish the pillow. It looks serviceable. Not pretty, but real. Something someone could actually use. The pillow maker nods. You did well, he says. Maybe your next one won't collapse. The cat from earlier has followed you. It sniffs your creation, then curls up on it like an official seal of approval. You smile. The sky is beginning to bruise with evening. Another day closing, folding gently like a reed mat. And once again, you are tired. But it's a good tired. The kind that only comes from making something with your own hands. The kind that leads to clean dreams. You cradle the reed pillow like it's already part of you. Like it holds not just your head, but your story. You sleep that night on your handmade reed pillow. It isn't luxurious. It crackles faintly under your weight, smells like the inside of a basket, and shifts just enough to remind you you're not a prince. But oddly, that's what makes it perfect. There's honesty in it. This is not a sleep for escaping life, it's a sleep for understanding it. Dreams come soft and slow. A boat gliding down a river made of stars. A figure with a falcon's head nodding at you from across a golden bridge. A pillow that sings. You wake once to the sound of frogs and then fall back asleep before your thoughts can finish forming. When morning arrives, the pillow maker is already waiting with 2 donkeys and what looks suspiciously like a picnic. "We're going up," he says. "The quarry is calling." You ride into the hills above the river valley, where the rocks grow whiter and the wind more curious. The climb is steady, the silence companionable. The pillow maker hums a tune your fairly certain he is inventing as he goes. It's catchy in a deeply ancient way. The quarry appears as a gouged scar on the land, sharp, clean, purposeful. Blocks of alabaster and limestone lie in stacks like forgotten bread loaves. You're here to learn where the most elite headrests came from. The kind reserved for royalty, high priests, and those who could afford the full celestial sleep package. A man is chipping away at a block with a stone hammer. Each strike echoes with lazy authority. HES shaping the rock chunk into something smooth, curved, and elegant. Nearby, a near miner's finished piece glows in the sun. It's not just a pillow, it's sculpture. The curve of it feels almost intimate, like it knows something about the human body that your modern Madras doesn't. You pick it up. It's heavier than expected. Cool, like river shade. Balanced. The craftsman points out a detail 3 notches at the base. "That's for Thoth," he says. "Wisdom, dreams, protection." You nod, not entirely sure how notches relate to cosmic security systems, but you respect the confidence. He shows you a broken one crack during carving. "Bad omen," he mutters. Goes back to the river. Sure enough, the damaged pieces are returned to the Nile, not discarded. Because even a broken pillow deserves a respectful journey. You sit beside a low wall scratched with messages, names, prayers, even a drawing of what appears to be a man riding a giant duck. The pillow maker sees you staring. "Quarry jokes," he says. "Even 3,000 years ago, people got bored." Historians still debate whether quarries were spiritual spaces or just functional work zones. But the evidence of graffiti, carved prayers, and small offerings suggests the workers saw their labor as more than just rock moving. They were shaping the sleeping tools of gods and kings. As you descend the hill, the pillow maker carries a newly carved alabaster headdress in his arms like a newborn. "This one's for the temple," he says. "High demand." Dreams don't carve themselves. At the bottom of the hill, the wind picks up. Dust dances. The Nile glints far below, and you feel smaller but in a good way. Like you're a part of something layered and living, shaped by hands and dreams and time. And tonight, you'll rest your head knowing exactly where your pillow came from. Not a warehouse, not a machine, but a hillside where wisdom was carved one breath at a time. It's festival season, which means noise, music, too many dates, and a surprising number of ceremonial nap competitions. Yes, those existed. Sort of. You arrive in a bustling town square flanked by painted colonnades and temporary reed pavilions. Women wear headbands of marigold. Children run with copper bells tied to their belts. A man in the corner balances an amphora on his head while reciting poetry about onions. You're not sure whether to be impressed or concerned. The pillow maker leads you toward a shaded area where several wooden platforms have been set up. On each one lies a different type of headrest, from simple straw pads to elaborately painted wooden cradles. Beside them, volunteers, horizontal ones. You've stumbled into the Dream Contest, a lightly competitive tradition where participants lie on specific pillows, hoping to receive a meaningful dream. Or at least a memorable nap. A judge who looks like he hasn't blinked in several hours sits nearby with a stylus and a stack of papiers. Every so often, he nods solemnly and writes something down. You ask what he is recording. Breathing rhythm, eyelid twitching, facial serenity, he replies without looking up. Also snoring volume. Some dreamers wear amulets. Others have painted symbols on their cheeks, eyes, stars, the occasional fish. One has a tiny statue of bees tucked into his belt, presumably for extra dream luck. You wonder how dreams are judged. Is it by clarity? Entertainment value? Narrative arc? A small boy nearby murmurs in his sleep. A crocodile told me to build a boat. The judge looks up. Mark that, he says. Promising. You try lying on one of the simpler reed pillows. A woman beside you leans over and whispers, breathe through your nose. Think of clouds. Then onions. Then let go. Surprisingly, this works better than most modern meditation apps. Historians still debate whether these nap competitions were symbolic rituals, theatrical amusements, or some blend of both. But inscriptions from the time do mention sleep offerings during festivals, and competitive dreaming was not entirely unheard of in temple records. Leave it to Egypt to make naps both sacred and scoreable. As the sun climbs higher, a musician begins to play a slow rhythm on a hand drum. You drift, half-minus dreaming, not asleep but certainly not awake. In your mind's eye, you see a field of headrests, each one blooming like a flower. Some wooden, some stone, some glowing faintly like candles. When you sit up, the pillow maker is handing out small carved tokens to participants. Dream well, he says to each, like a farewell and a command. You receive one shaped like a tiny crescent moon. You keep it. Of course you do. That evening, the streets buzz with laughter and roasted garlic. Someone is juggling apples near a pottery stall. A dog barks at a basket of lemons. The whole town feels like a lullaby with a rhythm section. You eat figs until your teeth complain, then wander to the edge of the square. There, in a quiet corner, is a reed mat with a pillow resting on it. No fanfare. No judge. Just the offer of rest. You lie down. The air is warm and full of small noises, crickets, laughter, night birds calling each other like sleepy poets. And as you close your eyes, you realize something. Even in a world of gods and tombs and stone permanence, the Egyptians never forgot the soft power of stillness, or the deep, unshakable magic of simply laying your head down. By now, you've grown used to the weight of ancient sleep. It clings to your skin like fine dust, soft and persistent. You carry it the way Egyptians once carried amulets, quietly, deliberately, like something sacred and a little secret. Today begins differently. You're headed to a weaving house, tucked along the edge of the village where the breeze smells of flax and old water. Here, linen isn't just cloth, it's legacy. And like everything else in Egypt, it's woven with dreams. The weavers greet you with polite nods and very tired eyes. They've been at it since before the sun rose. Their fingers move with muscle memory, pulling threads so thin and straight you wonder if they've ever gotten tangled in their own lives. Your guide explains that linen was more than fabric. It was the material of sleep. Bed sheets, headdress straps, funeral wrappings, even pillow covers for the reed versions anyway. The finest linen was called woven air, which is beautiful, if a bit passive minus aggressive for something you have to hand minus wash. You try your hand at the loom. It creaks like an old thought. The shuttle wobbles. Your threads are uneven. A girl nearby chuckles gently, then quietly fixes your mistake before it becomes a textile embarrassment. One woman shows you a bundle of old linen stored in a clay jar. Wedding cloth, she says. Worn once. Then used for his pillow. You ask whose. She points at a shrine across the room, a carved image of a man with smiling eyes and very impressive ears. He dreamed well, she adds. There's a certain poetry here in how the same cloth wraps love, sleep, and memory. In Egypt, nothing was ever just one thing. A pillow might support a head, but also carry prayers, regrets, or a good joke woven into the hem. You watch a boy fold a piece of linen and tuck it inside a carved wooden headrest. For my grandfather, he says. He says the wood is too cold. You nod. You felt that too. Historians still debate how widespread linen minus-covered headrests were. Some believe they were a regional habit. Others say they were reserved for those with sensitive necks and persuasive grandmothers. But the idea of softening the sacred, that feels very human. Before you leave, the weavers offer you a square of their lightest cloth. It's the color of early morning and smells faintly of crushed chamoline. To line your pillow, one woman says. Or your thoughts. You wrap it around the reed pillow you made days ago. It suddenly feels gentler. Not luxurious. Not royal. Just enough. And that, too, is an art. Outside, the wind carries the scent of baking bread and warm stone. The pillow maker smiles at your wrapped creation and nods. Now it will remember your dreams, he says. You don't ask what that means. Some things are better left folded. There's one more place the pillow maker wants to take you. A house at the edge of the desert, where the wind carries old whispers and the earth remembers being ocean. It's a place for remembering not the grand kind, but the kind that lives in a corner of your grandmother's door. You ride out under a heavy sky. The sun hides behind a gauze of cloud, and the sand hums quietly, like it's thinking of you. The donkey is stubborn, the saddle uncomfortable, and the path mostly metaphor. But eventually, the house appears a small structure of mud brick, leaning slightly, like it's tired but still trying. An elderly woman answers the door. Her face is a landscape of lines, each one with a direction and a reason. She invites you in without asking your name. The pillow maker sent you, she says. He always does. Inside, the air is still. Dried herbs hang from the ceiling, and a single clay jug sweats in the corner. There are no headrests in sight, just mats, folded linens, and a sense that time naps here often. She shows you a chest. Inside are dozens of small headrests miniatures, each barely the length of a hand. Carved, painted, even stitched from scraps of linen. You ask what they are. Children's pillows, she says. You pick one up. It's painted with stars and tiny fish. Another has a prayer carved in miniature: sleep sweet, walk soft, return kindly. You feel something shift in your chest. These were for dreams that didn't stay long, she adds, touching a piece shaped like a tiny boat. You sit beside her on the floor. She hands you tea that tastes like licorice and smoke. Together, you begin unwrapping some of the bundles. Not for use, just for memory. Each one has a name, a date, a story. One belonged to a boy who dreamed of leopards and never learned to swim. Another to a girl who sang in her sleep. It is not sad. It is something else. Gentle. A museum of what minus if. You ask if she still makes them. She nods. When I need to remember how to rest. Historians rarely mention these. Maybe they were too personal, too small for scrolls. But they were real. Someone carved them. Someone kept them. Someone held them close in the dark and whispered, "Sleep, little one. The stars are still watching." Before you leave, the woman places one in your hand. It's a crescent of wood wrapped in faded indigo cloth. For your dreams, she says. The new ones. You bow awkwardly. Not because it's required, but because you suddenly feel like you should. Back outside, the desert is quiet. The wind moves like a thought half minus remembered. The pillow maker is waiting with 2 cups of water and no questions. You hold the tiny pillow close, tucked inside your bag, light as an apology. It's not a souvenir. It's a companion. And as you ride back toward the Nile, the path seems gentler. Almost like the land itself wants you to sleep well. and now greets you like an old friend who never stopped talking. It's shimmering again, wide and lazy, reflecting a sky smeared with apricot and soft lilac. Boats drift past, loaded with baskets, dates, and the occasional goat who looks very sure of its place in the cosmos. You're back where the river meets the town, where stone paths give way to whispers and dusk rolls in with sandals off. Tonight is different. The Pillowmaker tells you there's a ritual happening. A night offering, he says, brushing dust from his shoulder like it's just another hour of the day. But his voice holds a hush. Not reverence, exactly more like respect with its sleeves rolled up. You follow him down a winding path, past homes lit by oil lamps and laughter too tired to be loud. A crowd has gathered by a low structure shaped like a half-minus moon. It's the Temple of Rest. Modest, unpainted, and entirely dedicated to the art of sleeping well. A priestess stands at the center, surrounded by children and elders alike. No gold, no drama, just a basket of papier slips, a jug of warm beer, and a low, flat platform covered in linen and lotus petals. People are here to surrender their worries before sleep. Out loud. Use it with the others. Someone whispers a list of things they forgot to do. Another confesses to stealing a fig. A child admits he saw a dream but didn't remember it in time. The priestess nods at each one, then places a single petal on the platform. The petals are not magical. They're reminders, gentle, fragrant proof that your burden has been seen. Then the surprise. A man steps forward and presents a headrest. Worn, dark, chipped at the corners. This belonged to my father, he says. He dreamed of birds. I dream of sand. Maybe tonight we trade. He places it beside the platform, and the priestess wraps it in cloth, kisses it, and sets it in a basket labeled to be used again. You wonder how many dreams live inside that basket. You wonder if any are yours. Historians still debate whether this sort of community sleep ritual was common or rare. There are few formal records of it, just marginal notes in papier, odd wall drawings, and a mention in a scribe's dream journal that night prayers make for softer dreams. But what you see here tonight feels older than text, older than even stone. As the ritual winds down, the priestess walks slowly around the circle, touching each head gently with her fingers. Sleep well, she murmurs. Speak kindly in your dreams. You close your eyes without realizing it. The world turns very small and very soft. You think of the reed pillow, the linen, the tea, the boy with the crocodile vision, the tiny headrests no bigger than a thumb. You think of all the ways Egypt has held the human head not just in grandeur, but in tenderness. And somewhere between candlelight and breath, you feel it. Not everything precious is meant to last. Some things are only meant to carry you across. Morning returns like a cat, slow, confident, unwilling to apologize. You rise, stretch, and find your pillow slightly flattened. A good sign. It means you actually slept. No gods visited. No birds spoke in riddles. Just rest. Solid, quiet, undeservedly rare. Today, the Pillowmaker wants to show you something older than the pyramids. Older than even comfort. He jokes, leading you past the town and into a field where time seems to forget its purpose. There, in a shallow depression near a grove of tamarisk trees, lie stones arranged in a circle. At first glance, they look like lazy landscaping. But the closer you get, the more deliberate it feels. A place for sleep, not of the body but of memory. Archaeologists once dug here and found fragments, broken pottery, reed bits, burned turbs, and a single carved ivory headrest to warn to display in a museum. Most skipped past it in their reports. Likely unremarkable, one noted. But the Pillowmaker disagrees. This, he says, is where the ancients came to forget. You raise an eyebrow. Not everything was about remembering. Some rituals helped people unburden to sleep so deeply that pain lost its shape. These stones held those who wanted dreams without memory. He sits in the center. You join him. The wind is slow here, as if it, too, is forgetting where it was going. There's no chant, no incense, just stillness. You close your eyes and feel the shape of the earth beneath you, the weight of the sky above. For a moment, you're not a visitor. You're someone ancient, weary, and gently cradled by stone and silence. When you open your eyes, Aichi is holding something small. A sliver of ivory. The top of a headrest. Smoothed by time, almost translucent. This is yours, he says. It no longer remembers whose it was. That makes it perfect. You hold it in your palm. It hums faintly, though maybe that's just your heartbeat. You imagine the person who once slept on it. What they feared. What they hoped. What dreams they carried out into the sand, never to be written down. Historians rarely value fragments. But here, fragments are sacred. They prove that something was used, held, needed. A perfect artifact is just something that has been loved enough yet. As you return to town, the pillow maker says nothing. The ivory fragment stays in your pocket. Lighter than sorrow. Heavier than air. You pass familiar streets. The boy with one sandal. The fig seller. The weaver stretching linen in the sun. Everything continues. And you somehow feel steadier than before. Like part of you has been placed gently on a carved curve of wood. And told, you can rest now. Well, remember the dreams for you. The pillow maker invites you to one final crafting session. Not in a house or a temple or a shaded market stall, but out under the stars. If the gods rest, he says, they do it where no roof blocks their dreams. You walk beyond the edge of the village, past sleeping goats and the occasional blinking owl. The night is cool, perfumed with night minus blooming jasmine and the earthy scent of dust settling down. Above, the sky spills stars like broken pottery. A fire has been built, low and smoky. Around it sit 3 other artisans, old enough to look like they carved time itself. Each holds tools, not chisels or knives, but brushes, cords, stones worn smooth by years of repetition. They're not here to build a headrest. They're here to decorate it. The pillow maker sets down a blank piece curved wood, polished and plain. Tonight, he says, we make it dream minus ready. Each artisan takes a turn. The first etches a spiral simple, quiet, ancient. A dream without edges, she says. The second ties a linen cord around a base and knots it thrice, so you don't get lost while sleeping. The third paints a faint blue dot beneath the curve. For remembering one kind thing when you wake, you're invited to add something. You hesitate. Then, with a small stylus, you carve a barely visible wave into the underside. No one asks what it means. No one needs to. They pass the headrest around like a bowl. Each one holds it, not slightly hands it on. It is now more than wood. It's a community of intentions. The fire burns lower. The stars blink more slowly. One by one, the artisans lie down on reed mats, facing different directions: north for clarity, east for guidance, west for endings, south for protection. You choose west. The pillow maker offers you the completed headrest. It's not yours, he says. It's everyone's. But you can use it. You lie back. The curve fits just behind your ear, firm but familiar. A breeze shifts the linen at your neck. Crickets resume their midnight sermon. Your eyes grow heavy, not with exhaustion, but with peace. Historians have no record of these nighttime gatherings. No inscriptions. No scrolls. Just oral fragments passed down through families too humble for museums. But somehow, you believe it. You believe it all. Sleep takes you like a river. And for once, you do not resist. You wake at dawn to birds that sound like flutes being tuned by someone very tired. The fire is just ash. The artisans are gone, like a dream you swore you'd remember. Only the pillow maker remains, sipping something warm, tracing his finger around the curve of the communal headrest. You slept, he says. You nod. Then pause. Did I dream? He smiles, shrugs. If you have to ask, maybe it's still happening. Today is your last day here. The pillow maker offers you no grand farewell tour. No final temper. Just one small request: help him deliver a few pillows. So you do. One goes to a young woman about to give birth. Hers is a reed pillow lined with mint leaves, unwrapped in the softest linen you've touched all week. Another is for a man who's losing his sight. His headrest is curved just slightly differently heavier at one end for balance. So his dreams won't tip over, the pillow maker explains, with zero irony. A third pillow is gifted to a teacher whose home smells of ink and firewood. She laughs when she sees it. Too pretty to use, she says, then places it directly on her bed. By afternoon, you've handed out 6 more. Each one met with gratitude, amusement, reverence, or a shrug, followed by quiet acceptance. Pillows here are not given as luxuries. They're passed along like stories here. Try this. It helped me rest. The final delivery is to a child who hasn't spoken in days. He just stares at the river like HES, waiting for it to speak first. His mother weeps softly, almost politely, behind him. The pillow maker kneels, places a small wooden crescent beside the boy. No words. You both walk away. Sometimes, the pillow maker says, dreams are the only thing a child will answer. You carry no pillow now. Just the fragment of ivory in your pocket, and the faint indentation behind your ear where last night's dreams rested. Historians may never know this side of Egypt. Not through tombs or papyri or academic journals. These were not the dreams of kings, but of bakers, teachers, tired parents, children who never asked for wisdom, only rest. And yet, somehow, this feels like the heart of it all. Not the monuments, not the myths, but the gentle insistence that sleep is sacred and dreams are worth preparing for, even if no one else ever writes them down. You're standing by the river one last time. The water is slow this morning, dragging light across its surface like a lazy painter. Reeds bend in the breeze. Birds skim the current, wings low, unhurried. Even the sun seems to pause, casting long gold lines on the ripples, like hieroglyphs only the river can read. The pillow maker hands you something wrapped in linen. It's light but solid. You unwrap it carefully. It's your reed pillow. The one you made, covered in soft cloth, the ends now finished with braided cord. It looks more real than you remember. More yours. He shrugs. You carried it this whole way, might as well keep it. You sit together under a fig tree, watching villagers go about their day. The woman with the mint pillows waves as she walks by. The cat from the marshland saunters past, ignoring you with deliberate grace. The fig-minder seller yells something unintelligible. Probably still about figs. You ask the pillow maker if he ever dreams. All the time, he says, cracking a smile. Mostly about sleep. You both laugh. Then fall quiet. He finally says, you know, we don't make pillows just to rest heads. We make them to catch what falls out while people aren't looking. You nod. You understand now. In a world filled with pharaohs and battles, spells and scarabs, Egypt also built something else, an entire philosophy of rest. Of sleep not as escape, but as practice. As preparation. As ritual. Historians call this civilization immortal because of its monuments. But maybe it endures because of its quieter inventions, the pillow, the pause, the shared nighttime breath. You stand. The breeze shifts. It smells like linen and river water and old wood warmed by sun. You tuck the pillow under your arm. Not because you need it, but because you don't want to forget how it felt to be held just once by something simple. And with that, you walk on. Light. Still. Dreaming. Let's stay here a little longer. You don't have to move. Not yet. The Nile is settling into its night rhythm. Slow waves tapping the banks. Reeds rustling like soft spoken secrets. The kind you share just before sleep, when the world is finally quiet enough to listen. The stars are blinking overhead one by one, never in a hurry. Somewhere nearby, someone is unfolding a mat. Someone else is tucking their child in, smoothing a wrinkle from a well-used pillow. A dog sighs. Aid or creaks. The air is warm, and everything, everywhere, is easing into stillness. You've wandered through temples and tombs, through dreams that bloomed and faded, through the quiet architecture of rest. You've seen what's shaped not for wealth, but for weightlessness. Linen sewn not for fashion, but for memory. And maybe, just maybe, you felt your own thoughts soften a bit, like cloth left in the sun, like a pillow passed through 100 hands. There's no need to remember everything. Just hold on to the feeling that even in the oldest corners of history, someone cared enough to carve comfort into wood, to cradle the head, to lift the spirit, to say, without words, you can rest now. So let your breath slow. Let your thoughts dissolve into the night. You are safe. You are soft. You are carried. Sleep, gentle traveler. The dreams will take it from here.